E aí, galera, tudo em paz com vocês? Sejam todos muito bem-vindos. Cello Emerson aqui, eu começo mais um vídeo do canal Metal Musikast. Hoje eu vou ter uma conversa com um convidado muito especial. Estou falando do guitarrista e fundador da banda Living Colour, Vernon Reid. Infelizmente, ele está num hotel, ele já está nos ouvindo, está num hotel e não conseguiu, não ficou adequado ali o local para a câmera, né, para aparecer em vídeo. Mas eu não vou perder a oportunidade de falar com Mr. Vernon Reid. Então eu vou trocar ideia com ele assim e vamos ver se a gente consegue fazer um conteúdo interessante aqui para vocês também. Lembrando sempre de vocês apoiarem aqui o canal Metal Musikast com suas inscrições, comentários. E também gostaria de dar um breve recado. Estou aqui com a camisa da Dorsal Atlântica para apoiar a campanha do meu amigo Carlos Lopes, que está em fase de produção e lançamento de um livro. Então, pesquisem na plataforma Catarse, ele vai fazer a vaquinha virtual. Agora eu vou começar a falar inglês e depois a gente monta aqui um conteúdo para vocês. Vou trocar ideia com o Vernon Reid. Hi, Mr. Vernon Reid. Be welcome. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm here in Rama, Ontario, Canada, in a First Nations casino hotel room.
Great. It's a great pleasure talking to you. And let's start talking about the Latin America tour, the newest Brazilian concerts. What do you expect about these concerts, especially in Brazil?
I'm looking forward to it. I try not to have too many expectations because, when I have expectations, I can have a letdown. So I'm just looking forward to playing for the people.
Okay. And Verno, artists used to say that the venue is the best. You know what I mean? When I say when they are in Brazil, they say, "Oh, Brazil is the best in the world." And they go to the Mexico and they say, "Mexico
Yeah,
is the
right.
best."
Yeah,
You know
exactly.
what I mean? But
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
yeah, in your opinion, does the Brazilian audience have anything different from those in the other countries?
Brazil has a spirit that's unique unto itself. It has a unique pride, and Brazil has unique challenges. And I think there are a lot of cliches about Brazil, which carnival and the beaches, and Brazil is a much more complicated country, and a lot of different ethnic groups. There's a lot of different. It's a brilliant country. It's a brilliant country for engineering. It's a brilliant country for art of all kinds. It's a brilliant country for music. It has brilliant graffiti artists. Certainly Brazilian dancing, Brazilian martial arts, all of the various activities, the food, um, are fabulous. So that's how I feel about Brazil. It's a complicated country, but it's a very beautiful country.
Yeah, we got a lot of beautiful places, beautiful people, but a lot of social problems and political and
Of course.
economic problems, and uh, it goes. Okay, and you've been in large festivals in Brazil, Hollywood
Yeah.
Rock and Rock in Rio. Um, as a musician, do you prefer the large the large festivals or the small venues?
Um, I tell you what, they're very different, because with a smaller in a smaller space, it's a different kind of connection to the audience. And with the large in a large space, like all the gestures and all the things have to be much bigger and broader, you know. Uh, I don't know if I could play in a smaller place and get paid the same money as playing in a big place, that would be perfect.
Okay. We were talking about the Brazilian art What do you know about the Brazilian art and especially Brazilian music?
Well, there are very obvious things to talk about. Jobim, Milton Nascimento, Alberto Gismonti, Nana Kaimimi. There's all of these artists who are, Hugo Fatorus. Oh, well, they're thinking about different. No, he's not. Fatorus is not. No, he's not Brazilian. But thinking about Hermeto Pascoal, like all of these wonderful artists, and uh, I just think like we just lost Sergio Mendes, right? And Sergio
Yeah,
Mendes, in a lot of ways, he's a. I think a lot of Brazilians roll their eyes, right? Because he was an early crossover artist. He was a lot of people's introduction to Brazilian music. But he did very wonderful records, and I love his music. Even though like the hipsters will be like, but I get that. But then again, I like thinking of the Sao Paulo Underground as an ensemble, which I'm big is a big fan. I have a couple of their records are great, interesting, very avant-garde. Um, Arto Lindsay, who was a personal friend, and I loved the project Ambitious Lovers, and I recorded on a couple of songs for Ambitious Lovers, and he's I think a brilliant artist. I for many years had a left-handed bassist named Hank Schroy, who was half Brazilian. He's half Brazilian and half from the South. He grew up in Atlanta, and he was a part of my music for a very long time. The mask, the record Mistaken Identity, you know, um, and he's a brilliant art musician, and he added a lot to my music over a few records. So yeah, so my connection, um, the first time I heard Egberto Gismonti, my mind was completely blown. My God. So yeah, and one of the greatest records of all time is the collaboration between Wayne Shorter and Milton Nascimento. You
great,
know,
great, great, great.
um, yeah, they're wonderful um, artists. And yeah,
Yeah, I can realize you got a strange connection to the Brazilian music. And
yeah.
Vernon, you wrote an iconic riff, and I'm talking about the riff of Cult of Personality in the beginning
Hmm.
of your career and the first Living Colors album. How does an artist feel when he creates an expression of art that becomes part of the culture of an age? How do you feel about it?
Well, it's taken on a life of its own, and I think about writing the song in Bushwick, Brooklyn, like the four members of Living Color who are in a way the first people that people know. There were other versions of the band before that, but Muzz, Skillings, Will Calhoun, Corey Glover, and myself. And Corey was trying to sing something to me, and I stumbled on the riff quite by accident. Da 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 da. And I remember yelling at Will, play a beat to this. And we started playing, and really, I think of the song really wrote itself. The song assembled itself, and I had these words. I wrote the lyrics as a poem. Just look in my eyes. What do you see? The cult of personality, and it was not connected to music at all. But I happened to have it in this red notebook that I lost. I lost that notebook on a New York City subway. crazy. Uh, but that had a lot of my lyrics as kind of poetry, and then Corey came up with the melody. So it's all of the things, but we played it the very next show. I mean, I think we played it within a week at CBGB's in front of people. It was a brand new song, and it was instantly people people dug it. It was and we just played a tribute in New York City to a great guitarist named Ronnie Drayton. Um, he played with Edwin Birdsong. He played with the Chambers Brothers. He played with Nona Hendrix. He played with Defunct. And and he was there. He was at CBGB's when we played Cult the first time, and I remember him saying, "Man, that's he said, man, that song that's bad, man. That song is bad." He reacted such a, and I think about that. And his was one of the first reactions to the song, and yeah, so it's been all of the things. I think today. No, it's not. No, it's like recently, Ed Stasium had a birthday, and Ed Stasium, the producer, the song was very different. We used to start with the bridge. We had a and he said, "Man, you should get right to the riff." We had We had Martin Luther King was the first sample. We changed that Malcolm X. So all of the different things happened. But when so many different people, I was a fan of the TV show The Walking Dead, right?
Great.
And they great zombie apocalypse show. And the very last episode, now there's a Walking Dead universe, so there's all these different shows. But the main show, they ended the show, and the last music cue for The Walking Dead was Cult of Personality, to get all the zombies to follow, to go to a to a ditch, right? And that blew my mind. So I'm incredibly the CM Punk thing. When he was a kid, he played Little League Baseball, and Cult of Personality was the song to get his team on the field when he was 12 years old. So when he became a wrestler, he wanted Cult to be his music. And that's just a crazy, very moving story. So it's connected to these cultural things, and but it all started in Brooklyn in this loft, and I'm still very proud of it. It's still very fun to play, and playing that riff right after Malcolm's speech and the people's reaction to it is always fantastic.
Great. Congrats on this work.
Thank you, sir.
And okay, and I want to talk about another song. This song is Auslander, that is in
Ah,
this album, Stain. And Auslander is on the set list nowadays, yeah?
yeah, I think Outlander, we're going to be playing it, yeah. Hmm.
And why does it have the German title? What message
Because,
does it bring?
well, this was a song written by Will Calhoun, our drummer,
Ah,
right? And was, he kept hearing this word, and, we were playing in Europe a lot. We were in Germany. So Will Calhoun wrote this song about what was happening in Berlin at the time, and he heard the word he heard the word Auslander, and it means outlander, outsider, and then he wrote a song from the perspective that the people, the Turkish people, are just trying to live, and that was the kind of idea. Now around the world, people are concerned about migration, and
yeah.
but it's so funny because you think about the colonial history, these are all outsiders coming into countries, and Caucasians were not native to North America. They came from Europe and basically took over. And it's interesting how one kind of migration is you know they have different pilgrims, or and now certainly migration is thought of a completely different way. you know
Yeah, yeah. And Vernon, we live nowadays in a world where people want to stay uh, in straight limits. You know what I mean? Like I can
yeah,
we can say bubbles, political bubbles, social
yeah,
bubbles, musical
absolutely.
bubbles. Yeah, and Living Colors sound it has a mix of a wide range of styles. We
Yeah.
can realize rock and roll, funk, jazz, blues, and even heavy metal. And
Hmm.
how difficult is to you, to an eclectic artist, eclectic musician, to
Uh-huh.
live to live in this world, to be a musician in this world?
Well, I think the thing about what we do is, I think that we are for we make a sound for people who are willing to hear other musics, or they're willing to engage in other ideas. That's the thing. We actually are a band for people who find themselves on the outside. We're a band. Interestingly enough, because the band has had some success, you know what I mean? Like, people think, weirdly, they think sort of the band in a mainstream way, but that's not really what it is. And certainly, I have simpatico with a lot of different artists from different worlds. People, the so-called world of grunge, from metal, from hip hop. I've been very close to the guys in Anthrax, very close to the Public Enemy people, and so on. That. So I think that we make music for people who are willing to test the boundaries.
Okay. Vernon, I got 5 CDs here, 5 albums in my hands, and I
Yeah.
wish I wish show each one to you and ask you about a few lines, a few words in your opinion about that. Okay, can we do that?
Okay.
Okay, this album, do you
Yeah.
know and do you like Miles Davis kind of blue? What's your opinion
Oh, I
about
love
it?
it. Well, my daughter was born. When my wife was having her. I had Kind of Blue on a boom box playing in a loop. So when I see Kind of Blue, I think of the birth of my daughter Idea. It's a timeless record, and Fred and Freeloader. So much of it. So what? It's fabulous. Blue and green. It's a fabulous record. Yeah.
Okay, the next is I'm Ready from Muddy Waters.
Oh yeah, yeah. Muddy Waters. I saw Muddy Waters the very first time I went to Europe, and that's the greatest concert I've ever seen.
And this album, Living Color Stain, why this album is so rough and heavy?
We were making a change. We changed bass players, and it was kind of. I think it was a transition in terms of our emotional transition, because Vivid is very much. It's a very hopeful record in a weird way. It's very hopeful. And it's not that that record's not hopeful, but we took on, Time's Up was also a record. They're very different. The conversation, the mood is very different. And by the time we get um, to Stain, our thoughts about what was going on in the world were very different. And some of that stuff is still very, like a song like Postman is still very unsettling. And I wrote that song, but it's still very unsettling to me. It's very unsettling.
Great. And what's your opinion about this Black album, Metallica? Do you like it?
You know, I like it. A lot of people are they because of the production on it. It's a big challenge for people. But I think I like the fact that they took a risk. They took a they did something different with the drums. They just did something totally different. I think it's cool. I think it's actually one of their best records.
And what do you think about the political message in the cover? This snake from the Gadsden flag that is a symbol identified with the alt right, the 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 far right. What do you think about it?
Well, I'm not an alt right fan. So but yeah.
Okay, and the next and the last is Cat Scratch Fever for Ted Nugent. Obviously, you know what I mean when when I ask you about this album. Do you like it? Do you like it? The songs, the
Well,
music,
it's kind of a record.
despite despite the opinions of this guy, what do you think about it?
Well, he's a great guitar player. I mean, this is a record. Before it's before Ted Nugent became associated with the right. I don't think of it. It's a great song, and he plays great on it. But I don't connect it to the Ted Nugent, the later Ted Nugent. You know, I
I got it.
think of it as it's great rock, great hard rock from the Midwest.
And can you separate? Can you split the musician and the music and
And the musician, the music. I think you
the
have to. I mean, unless somebody's done something really terrible, you know. Um, and even when they do, like, it's no excuse for something criminal, right?
okay.
But like Phil Spector, Phil Spector murdered a woman,
Wow.
and he threatened people with guns. He threatened people with guns for a very long time, and people said one day he's going to kill somebody. One day the gun's going to go off. He's going to kill somebody deliberately or by accident, and it did happen. And but Phil Spector changed the sound of modern music. Like you hear Phil Spector, like whenever you hear a glockenspiel, you're hearing Phil Spector. Whenever you hear certain orchestral instruments done a certain way, you're hearing Phil Spector. So his influence, his musical genius is really not, it's connected to someone very problematic, but his musical genius, and you may choose to not listen to Phil Spector, but Phil Spector is in so much other music, that you're hearing that, it's okay to dislike him and dislike what he did. But as a musician, as a person in pop, you cannot escape Phil Spector. You just
Okay.
you can't. And again, that's not an excuse, but his musical genius is, you can't deny his musical genius.
Yeah, I got it. And Mr. Vernon Reid, thank you so much for this conversation. It was a great pleasure to
Thank you,
me.
man. I appreciate the conversation.
Yeah, send a message to the Brazilian fans to finish this interview, please.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm looking forward to see all of our fans in Brazil. It's an incredible country with a very, very important place on the world stage. And I look forward to playing for all the Brazilians that come through.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Vernon Reid. See you.
Thank you.
See
See
you in
you. See
Brazil.
you down there.
Thank
Yep.
you.